And we're back.
Are we? Are you sure?
Yeah.
You positive?
I'm very positive.
No.
We are back. Welcome to the Auto Authorities Podcast. My name is Jay Grossman. I'm the CEO and founder of iAutoAgent, and this is Mr.
David Marks with Quality Auto STL, home of trusted services with no surprises.
All right. Hold on to your seats, everybody. We are going to be talking about leasing. And if you have been following us for over a year since we've been doing this podcast, you would have listened to the last leasing episode that we have. And boy, oh boy, has it changed. And you're going to want to hear. Are you ready to do this, Mr. David Marks?
Absolutely.
Do it. Have you ever felt like you were taken for a ride when buying, selling, or repairing your car? Well, not anymore. I'm Jay.
And I'm Dave.
And this is the podcast that tells you what to watch out for, whether you're buying, selling,
or repairing your car.
With 47 years of automotive experience, we are the Automotive Authorities. This podcast is sponsored by iAutoAgent. We're real estate agents for cars.
And Quality Auto STL, trusted services with no surprises.
Boom!
Booyah!
Welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. Oh my goodness, do we have a show for you today? But before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Podcastify.me. That is Mr. Fritz, who runs that company, and he makes all this stuff happen for us, doesn't he, Mr. David Mark?
Yeah, because we don't know what the hell we're doing.
So if you want your podcast, you call Fritz at Podcastify.me. And if you are tuning in on YouTube, just go to the subscribe button in the right-hand corner and subscribe to our wonderful YouTube. And you can even get notification settings by clicking the little bell, the notification bell. And if you want to watch us live on Facebook, we have a Facebook group page, not a fan page, but a group page.
We don't need a fan page. We got so many.
Oh my gosh. I cannot even believe the following we have, but we want more. And we want you to click the join group button. And if you want to see all of our amazing podcasts, you can go to theautoauthorities.com. It's flashing right below our screen. If you can see this, if you can hear it, it's theautoauthorities.com. Leave us some comments. We've been getting a lot of feedback, positive feedback. We want to know what you want to hear. And comment below when we're talking. Comment below and share this. Please share this with your friends and family, because what we're going to tell you today might be a surprise to you. And we're going to have story time today too, Dave. Well, let's get into it. Well, we did this episode in March of 2021, buy or lease. Now we're talking about buying or leasing in 2022, and boy, has it changed, Mr. David Marks.
Yeah, I can only imagine how with the market and the bubble bursting and how it changed. So I tell you what, Jay, let's just quickly revisit what the difference is between buying and leasing, just in a generalization, just really quickly in a couple
seconds. That's good. That's a good idea. So basically, buying a vehicle is you're paying for the entire amount up front. You're going to a financing institution. They're giving you an amortization scale, and you have a monthly payment on the entire amount, and you pay sales tax. What a lease is you only pay for the part of the car you use by something called based on a residual. And what a residual is a predicted amount of what that vehicle is going to be worth at the end of the term. And it's typically a 3-year term, sometimes a 4, and sometimes even longer, but it's a predictable amount. And what was really cool is you used to have like really a great, like, okay, well, I know that this vehicle is going to be worth $20,000. I'll just make my payments. It'll be based on what we call, so the residual is based on a percentage too of the MSRP. So let's just say the MSRP is $40,000 and the residual is 50%. Well, then that vehicle can be bought for $20,000 at the end of
That's
the
what they
term.
think it's going to be worth. So at the end of the lease, they're anticipating the market value is going to be $20,000 based on how many miles it has, condition, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense.
So then your payments are based on the other 20,000, and they have what you call a use tax. It's not the entire sales tax, and it's built into the payment. So they also have something called a money factor, which is very similar to when you are financing a car. They use a money factor, which when you do a calculation, it will equivalent into an actual interest rate.
Based on how long you're going to have the vehicle for and what the value of that vehicle during that time period is.
It has
No?
nothing to do with that. It's a preset amount. It's like 0.00120, and then you times it by $2,400. That's how you do the calculation. And then it's going to spit out an interest rate. Well, the money factors have been very, very low in the past. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But it's how your calculation is based upon for your payment. Your monthly payment is based on that money factor and the residual. So obviously you want the residual as high as possible. So you're paying for as little of car as possible. So some of these,
so like a Jeep or a Toyota Tacoma, they're going to have a high residual.
yes,
Where a Chevy Cruze might not have a high residual because it's
exactly.
Yeah.
So at iAutoAgent, we used to do a strategy when, obviously when this was great, is like we would find residuals sometimes at 75%. So you're only paying for 25% of the car. Now, let's talk about two other definitions, and I'm going to share with you like what So cap cost is basically what you're paying for the car. That's the amount. So they have all these like terminologies that confuse.
So what do you mean cap cost? So if you took the actual cost of the car minus what the other stuff that you just figured out and multiply that by the term, that's the cap cost.
No, the cap cost is simply the MSRP of the vehicle. That's
okay.
what it is.
MSRP, manufacturer suggested retail price.
That's correct. And then the cap cost reduction is how many pieces, discounts, like if they gave you discounts or they had lease cash. And I'll talk about that here in a second because we're going to get into that. So here's why. When we did this episode in 2021, leasing was amazing. Number one, there was what we call lease cash incentives. Do you know what those are?
I have no clue.
Okay. So basically what that is they mass produced cars. So they would throw these incentives to the franchise dealers saying, hey, we'll give you, let's just say $4,000 against the cap cost of the vehicle. So it would lower the amount. It's kind of like you're not financing, but you're using that money factor and residual to calculate that payment. So the more lease incentives, the lower the payment.
So manufacturers were incentivizing dealers to offer leases to people instead of buying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because people buy on payments, and I don't want to get too ADD on this, but sometimes when you see a commercial,
they always advertise the lease price.
That's right, and they sure do. What don't you see?
What a monthly payment would be. What a traditional loan payment would be.
No, not that. But if you stop your DVR and you look at the small print, it'll say with $5,000 down. So it's very, very misleading. It gets people in the door, Dave. That's exactly what it does. It's bait. I hate to say this, but it really is bait and switch. And the manufacturers are doing this, not the dealers. The manufacturers are.
Well, yeah, because the manufacturers want the dealers to sell cars. So how do we help our dealers sell vehicles?
That's exactly right. So residual.
I think it's a smart move by manufacturer. I mean, they're in business too. So if the dealers and them work together, yeah.
It is. It is a smart move because it moves units, and that's what they want to do. And they were mass producing these units, so they had to give these incentives. Like we're going to
Now,
have
this didn't make any sense to me when the used car market took off. Is this why they did this? Because used car market took off, and so they're competing against the used car market at that time, and then because they want to sell new vehicles.
so so actually quite the opposite happened when the used car market took off, and we're going to talk about that here in a second because you're one step ahead of me because we're
Oh,
going to
I'm not looking
no
at this.
no
I'm listening to what you're saying.
but it would be actually what you said would make sense, right? The used car market takes off, we want to keep selling the new vehicles, but see, that wasn't the problem. All the new vehicles were sold. So now,
Oh, okay,
now
yeah,
you know where I'm going.
yeah, that makes sense because there was still demand for new cars and there was no supply.
Bingo. And now we're going to start getting into, so the money factors were also really, really low. So when you would go and get a lease, that money factor sometimes when you do the calculation would equivalent into sometimes less than 1% financing. A financing rate, like a typical financing rate, like when they're doing their calculations, it would actually equivalent into that. Another thing is when so I don't know if I think I've shared this with you, and I think we shared this last time. You could sell the car whenever you wanted to. So when the high markets hit, you could time it and you could sell it whenever you wanted. A lot of people don't think you could sell leases. You can sell leases. And
Yeah,
if
but how do you sell something that you don't technically have the title on?
you don't have the title to a car that you financed,
Well, no, I agree. I understand, but
you
so
can't.
you would have to find somebody that's willing to pay off that, and then the manufacturer, then the title's transferred to the owner's transferred to the new owner.
Well, here's how it works. It has to go through a licensed dealer when you sell your car. So so if you don't want to pay sales tax, I should say. So when the market hit really, really high, if you go through a dealer, so like one of the things we were doing at iAuto Agent is we were looking at people's leases and they owed, say 20 grand and the thing was worth 30 grand. I'll give you a perfect example. We had a client of ours that had leased a Subaru, and he's like, well, what should I do with it? And I'm like, well, how much do you owe on it? It was right under $10,000 that we put in his pocket.
Holy! Now, did he go get another vehicle?
And then we were able to help him through our buyer's agent program get into another vehicle. And he did not need that vehicle. That was the beautiful thing about it. He didn't need it. So he was able to relinquish his vehicle, put almost $10,000 in his pocket immediately. We got him. And then we were able to get him into a brand new Toyota Camry that we with one of our connections, one of our preferred dealers, we were able to get our hands on that one. It still took 2 months to get it, but he didn't care. The guy just pocketed $10,000.
Well, you can use that 10 grand towards that Camry.
Well, whenever you do a lease, you don't ever want to put any money down. Because why? Because if you get in an accident in that lease and you put 10 grand down, you just lost 10 grand. That's
right. So did he lease the Camry?
So he actually wound up, I can't remember if he bought it or leased it, but because the things we're talking about today, the residuals were lower now. So when I quoted him like what the residuals were when we first started 2 months ago, and the residuals dropped and the money factor went up. So it made the payment more. So I think he actually wound up buying it. Don't quote me on that, but it was almost identical to buy it versus lease it. So why wouldn't you just buy it? Right. It's only an advantage to lease when you can get a lower monthly payment. In my opinion, a much lower payment. So, for example, another piece is you're never out of equity on a lease. So you have options when that lease is done. You can just turn it in. There's a turn-in fee. You have to pay for any miles penalties, but If you decide you want to sell that vehicle before the lease is done, you do not have to pay sales tax. You do not have to pay mileage penalties.
Really? But you got to sell it to a licensed dealer. You can't sell it to an individual.
Right. Correct.
Interesting.
Now, if at the end of the lease, if you want to buy the vehicle, then you have to pay sales tax on it if you're going to sell it yourself.
Yeah, and you got to get a title. So we're talking about the state of Missouri as well.
Yeah,
and that's then you got to get a title. That's interesting.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a story time here in a second. But real quick, I wanted to again thank our sponsor, Podcastify.me. They are the ones that make this thing absolutely beautiful for us every single week, week in, week out. Our producer, Fritz, he's done a great job. iAutoAgent, real estate agents for cars, go to iAutoAgent.com. They will help you sell your car. You never have to leave your house. You never have to lift a finger. And they will take care of everything from marketing, showing, and listing the vehicle at no cost to you. They will navigate the entire buying process. In fact, we just had a client that literally was in a dealership for less than 30 minutes driving away in their car. We make you feel like royalty when you walk in. Yes. And then you've got Mr. David Marks with Quality Auto STL, trusted services with no surprises. What a great business you're running. And it's just really cool to watch all this happen, because I know you're doing really well with some of the crazy stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
And if you're just listening to this, please share this with anybody that you know. Please comment below. We're going to get into some really, really good stuff here. The last thing I want to talk about in 2021, how these leases were amazing, is it's always under warranty. If something happens to that vehicle, it is predictable on what you are going to wind up paying for that vehicle. You have a monthly payment. It's completely under warranty. You don't have to worry about any surprises, right?
People could get maintenance included in the payments too.
You can. There's maintenance programs as well.
Yeah, because the dealer knows when it's supposed to be due for stuff, so you can factor that all in. There's a couple different ways you can do it. So,
well, I'll tell you, are you ready for story time?
I've
been itching to do this.
I know.
So here we go. Listen, kids. So I'm going to give you two stories. I leased a Volkswagen Tiguan in 2020. I actually did a 39-month lease. I'm paying $239.99 a month for a $26,000 vehicle with zero down, all payments included. It had, remember we talked about lease cash? Between lease cash and discounts, it was about $8,000 off.
Wow.
So fast forward to 2022, that same vehicle, not only can you not get it, but if you wanted to lease that vehicle, it's about $500 a month.
Went from what to what?
$239.99 to $500 a month, and you can't even get them.
Holy shit.
Wow. Now you're seeing why the leasing is not working. I'll give you another example. So I leased a Toyota Tacoma 2019. Beautiful SR5, $36,000 rig. White, black wheels. I mean, it was cool. And then one day the wind blew over the goalpost in our yard, and it went like that to the hood. And it was about $2,000 worth of damage. I didn't fix it. And we were actually getting up on miles on that car. What did I do? I hopped out of the car when the market was at the top of the market. I went through one of my connections. I made $3,000 on that car with the damage.
Wow.
I didn't pay sales tax. So you know what my payment was on that car, on a $36,000 car? Just take a guess.
$175.
No, not that good. But
I don't know. I mean, you said take a guess. So
$290 a month. Do you know what it would have been to finance that car?
$375.
$720 a month.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's why I was so excited a year ago. You can tell right now I'm not that excited. I'm not. Because leasing sucks right now. I said it. So how have things changed? Well, there are no more lease cash incentives out there.
Now,
There
why
are
did those go away? You got any hypothesis?
Oh, I know exactly why they went away.
I mean,
So
yeah.
exactly what you had said. So you said, well, the used car market was going great, so they wanted to compete in the new cars, but there were no new cars. So there is no more competition. And the manufacturers know that. They will produce the cars as they are ordered. So they don't have to offer incentives to people. There are
Yeah,
no
there's no reason to when they kind of got they got the customer cornered.
Yeah, and guess what else they did? They lowered the residuals.
Now, how did they lower the residuals?
They just
How can they dictate that?
so I'm gonna say this trying to think
That's
like
almost like insider. That's almost like Wall Street trying to
kind
manipulate
of
the stock market.
yes, but what they're doing is they're protecting themselves just in case there's another massive drop in prices.
Oh, so they'll tell the consumer what we're going to say that vehicle is worth after the lease is up.
Mhm.
Okay, so they're dictating that.
Yeah, they're protecting themselves because we're seeing right now in the used car market, right now, the market is tanking. And especially in SUVs and trucks, tanking. Why? Gas. And there's other factors too. So the residuals are down, money factors are going higher.
Hmm.
Why is that? Well, because they can. There's no
They can dictate the market and they can manipulate a market to a certain degree.
That's right.
They can't control it 100%, but they got a big vote.
Exactly. And here's the bombshell, and this is something that frankly pisses me off a little bit. Is it used to be, for the most part, most manufacturers, um, the financial companies control this, but you used to be able to sell the vehicle to whoever you wanted, anywhere. You could go to any dealer that you wanted to sell the vehicle. Now you have to go back to that particular manufacturer to sell it.
Okay, so if I lease a Toyota and I want to sell it, I got to go back to any Toyota dealer, or the one that I originally leased it from.
So Toyota is actually one of the few companies, Toyota and Subaru, and I think Jeep
The
are
Jeep
the
brand, or are you talking about
the,
the now
the Jeep brand.
not Chrysler, Dodge, or Ram or Fiat?
I don't know. I'm not completely 100% on that, but most companies you have to go back. So Toyota, to my knowledge, you can still sell Toyotas outside of Toyota.
So if I'm leasing a Toyota, I can sell it to whoever I want anytime I want, as long as they
Dealer.
dealer. I need Toyota dealer. So if you're in a lease, I can't just sell it to pay off what the manufacturer was entitled to for the term of that lease.
You
Or the
could.
original contract.
You can pay off the vehicle anytime you want, but if you pay it off, you're going to have to pay sales tax. If a
No, I'm
dealer
talking
pays,
about paying off what the term of the lease. Pay off the lease payments. Like, to me, if this is just the way I think about it. So if I'm in a lease, if I'm in a 36-month lease, right, and I'm 1 year in, I'll just use Toyota as an example. And Toyota's still entitled to 24 months of payments from me because I signed a contract. To sell it, I have to pay off that contract, correct?
No, you can sell it at any time you want to any dealer. You can sell it a year after you've owned it. It doesn't matter. You just can't sell it to an individual. Now
Okay.
you could pay off the rest of the payments, and then you have to pay sales tax on it too. And it made sense for a lot of people still to actually pay off the vehicle and pay the sales tax, and they were still walking away with piles of money.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, the party's over. It really is. And people are not getting the money that they used to get. And that is a good thing because it's been ridiculous. So why did this happen? Well, the prices also on new cars are going through the roof. So when you base a lease, it's based on what we talked about, the cap cost, right? That's the MSRP, on the window sticker. So if you have a higher MSRP, what's going to happen to your lease payment? It's going to be higher. Right. And the manufacturers are losing their butts not getting these cars back, because when you lease a car and you turn it back in, that goes back to the manufacturer, and then they take it to the auction and they try to get their money out of that car. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Or the dealer, the turn-in dealer, will actually try to buy that car directly from the manufacturer because they're, wanting to certify it or whatever.
Sold as a certified pre-owned. So the manufacturer, when that car is so on a lease, the consumer is in charge when they turn it in. The consumer has first dibs on that car, what they want to do, right?
Yes, but here's the wild card on this. You ready? So Elon Musk came up with, on the Model 3s and the Teslas, that you had to turn in your car. You could not buy that car if you wanted to.
Wow.
And now he's doing it on all the Teslas. And guess what else is happening? Just take a guess.
Everybody else is doing it.
Everybody else is going to start doing it. So now
because legally they own the car.
Yes, but legally also,
it's no different than running an apartment.
Right. It is. So, but when you think about financing a car, you don't own that car either.
No, because of the bank, the financial institution, whether it's a manufacturer or a credit union or a bank, has first dibs on it.
Yeah.
I agree.
And really, it's completely changed the entire leasing industry now.
Leasing, you're talking about consumers not having the option to buy it at the end is what that's the big golden nugget of this episode. That's
coming. It's coming soon. I'm seeing it coming down the road, and it's coming soon. And a lot of the manufacturers, like, they have a Ford Blue program. Have you heard of this?
No.
It basically is the manufacturers want to sell directly to the public.
Now, how the hell are they going to get around their franchise? All these states.
Well, but that's a whole nother episode. We could even probably do a whole episode on that because we're running out of time. But there's a lot of changes coming down the road, and I was disappointed because I love leases. I mean, I lease every one of my cars. Why wouldn't I? If I'm getting so on that Tacoma, I had a 75% residual.
Yeah, that's making your money work for you because like me, I shelled out 42 G's on a Cadillac. I indirectly financed it, but that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, I gave Manheim $42,000. If I would have leased something like that, I could have spread that out, used the rest of that money to buy other vehicles, to flip and sell, and made money.
Technically, yes, in this market, but normally you would not want to lease a Cadillac.
Well, I'm just talking about a car in general, in a vehicle in general. Hell, I could go do that and then use that cash to make extra cash to buy other cars to fix and sell and make money.
Yeah.
Instead of shelling out what I did.
Exactly. And then you're in charge of the depreciation too. So that's the other piece is
I don't keep stuff that long. I'll get rid of this a year and a half,
but you're gonna have to pay for that depreciation. So if that car you bought for $42,000 at the top of the market, you may not want to know what that thing's worth now.
I don't give a shit. I expense it, so I don't care. I'm a completely different animal because I understand the tax code and financials and how it'll be a tax deduction for me.
Yeah. So most people are not in that position, unfortunately.
No, I'm in a really good position, a good spot to do what I do.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Really enjoyed talking with you today.
No, this was educational. I I had no idea. It gets every time I think about me, it's like, why do I pay cash for my cars? I should just do what Jay does.
Well, just follow iautoagent.com and schedule a meeting with us, and we'll get you going in the right direction.
All right.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. Peace.
Bye.